Hi there, and welcome to the 21st edition of Career Stories Live. So I'm really excited that I'm on 21. I can't believe it. It's flown past. So today I'm joined by Marc Crawley, who is Founder of Diversita, which is an organisation that now works with over 1,000 neurodivergent candidates and over 20 organisations. So welcome, Marc. Thank you very much for joining me today.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Always nice to talk to you.
Brilliant. Thank you. So as always, please do comment to let us know that you're here, where you're joining from, and feel free to ask any questions or share your experience in the comments. And if you're watching later on replay, then also please leave your comments. So I can see we've got a few comments coming through already. So we've got Jeff, who's always the first every week. So thank you, Jeff. So he's saying he's just about having breakfast on this side of the pond. Namaste. Thanks, Jeff. And then Paul, yeah, best meal, definitely. Paul's in the kitchen, so he's thinking about lunch. So thanks for that, Paul. And Jeff is saying, are you in the kitchen as usual? Yes, he is. Brilliant, thank you. Okay, so I know that there's quite a lot of people joining today that I don't necessarily know. So thank you, Marc, for kind of sharing the invite along to people. So just to give a bit of an overview, the basis for these lives, really, I've always been really interested in what people do and why they do it. I like learning about different roles and career paths, and that's what kind of gave me the idea for the live. So it's to kind of inspire thought, really, and get people to give advice on places to source information. And hopefully the guests each week will share some career tips. So that's kind of the idea. So we'll get straight on to Marc. So Marc, could you just give me a brief intro into you and what it is you're doing right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the moment, I am basically the director of Diversita. So Diversita essentially is a recruitment agency that focuses and works only with neurodivergent job seekers in the UK. When I say we, myself, my wife, and my oldest son, we founded Diversita a year ago, and yeah, we now are up to 7 people. We work with, as I say, nearly 20 organisations in different ways, be it training, be it recruitment, and various other areas. But essentially, I suppose if you ask me what I actually do, it's pretty much a little bit of everything at the moment, being the founder of a startup. But I think what's been quite nice is all my experiences have helped me be able to do that, right? So, but no, it's an incredibly rewarding focus for us, and we love what we're doing, and yeah, we hope we can do it for many years to come.
Brilliant, thank you. And we're definitely going to be talking a bit more about that later on. So I can see a couple more people that have arrived. So Alison saying hello. So hi, Alison. Thank you for joining. And Mark Whitmore. So thank you for joining, Mark. So
another Mark with a C.
Yeah, another Mark with a C. Yeah. So I think it was probably about a year ago we had a live, wasn't it, Mark, with the other Mark, when we were kind of talking about all of the.
That's right, Mark 1 and Mark 2, I think it was at the time. Yeah. So, yeah.
Exactly. Okay, so we're going to start off a bit about early careers. So did you have a job whilst you was at school? And if you did, has that helped you in any way? Or university or anything like that?
No, I loved it when you put this question, because I did. I worked from when I was around 11 in different things. A lot of it was from necessity. So my mum was a single parent, and any money I wanted, I had to sort of earn myself. Yeah, I was like a paper boy at 11. Then I worked on a milk round, and then weirdly I cleaned blinds. You know, like the sort of the blinds that you turn with a handle and they let light in.
Like a village light. Oh, wow.
Yeah, the plastic ones. I cleaned those at an advertising company in Piccadilly Circus because my dad worked there. And it was the hardest job I've ever had, because there must have been about 200 windows. You had to clean each one individually. So anyway.
Oh my word! So
that was good. Yeah, then I worked at like the Co-op when I was actually underage. I shouldn't have been working there, but that was good. But there's no doubt, yeah, that I had a good work ethic from when I was young, and it might have been necessity. It might have been some influence from parents and particularly my granddad. But I think some of the experiences I had there, there was 2 in particular that I think shaped sort of my values and morality. So there was, when I was a paper boy, I actually got fired, and it was really unjust. I'd been working there for about 1.5 years, and I was off sick with tonsillitis, and I told them every day. But when I went back, they'd given my round to someone else, given my
Right. Oh, no.
and that sense of justice, apart from my mum going down there and smashing the place up, which wasn't probably the right way to do, I was outraged, if you like. I was like, how can you?
I'm surprised.
And this is quite funny because my mum contacted the local newspaper and the news shopper at the time, and they come around and they took photos of me with like my sort of pockets emptied out, and it was basically a piece around employment rights for young people in those type of jobs. So so that was one that really shaped it, I think, going forward, where I was like, I want to make sure that people are treated fairly, etc.
That's a really good lesson.
And then I was when I worked on a milk round, I worked with someone who I since found out was stealing money and blamed it on me as well. So again, as a young person, those type of rights, or you think about these are the people that are influencing your job or looking after you or safeguarding, etc. It was so there was a couple of things quite early on where I learned that first of all, the world is quite tough sometimes, but secondly, there's things that people in positions of responsibility who can do and help others, they should do. So I don't want to sound too idealistic, but they did really genuinely shape me when I look back. So but I always worked as a kid.
No, that's good. Excellent. Oh, thank you. We could talk about that for the whole half hour, so I'll move on. I can see that there's quite a few other people joining now. So someone's saying hello, everyone. Patrick saying he's having lunch. So hi, Patrick. John. So John was a guest right on my second show, actually. So he's saying happy Thursday. Okay, so Fazia is saying she used to work with Paul at Celgene and enjoys them. Oh, thank you. That's really nice. Thank you, Faiza.
Excellent.
And then Paul saying the new shopper, there's a blast from my southeast London pass.
I used to deliver that as well. So it's my come full circle. So,
Wow, there you go. Okay, that's it. I love all this chat that goes on. Sometimes it's a bit distracting. Okay, so let's move on to your kind of your adult career. So how did you start out in your career?
So in recruitment, so I worked in retail between sort of 18 and 30. And a lot of that was, again, because I worked for WH Smith's, and then I went to a management trainee scheme and et cetera, et cetera. So I worked in retail for quite a long period when I was younger. But then I worked in a store in Bromley. I managed a shop called Cecil G, which was part of Moss Bros, which people might know. Yeah. And a friend of mine coming who I hadn't seen since school, and he worked in recruitment. And he seemed to have a lot of money because he was buying a lot of the designer clothes that I sold at the time. And it just went from there. I went for an interview. The recruitment agency that I worked for was one called Optimum, and they were based in Bromley, literally a 10-minute walk from where I lived. And I started there when I was 30. But what was interesting was that I went from being quite senior in retail to working essentially on a training desk. So I was sitting there with 17, 18-year-olds learning recruitment in a little bit of a sort of a Wolf of Wall Street style environment, if the truth be known. And I learned the fundamentals around how to work in recruitment. And so in my recruitment career started there. And I was at Optimum for 10 years. And then there was a few ups and downs there, don't get me wrong. And I worked my way up to director there. But I think I definitely learned a lot. I learned some really good stuff. I also learned a lot of things that maybe I didn't like about the recruitment industry. And I think, again, that's probably shaped where I am now. But moving into recruitment in the first place, I think for me, it was an opportunity to do something where I could work with customers. I could try and change careers. And again, I looked at it very idealistic when I went into it. It wasn't always that way, but again,
okay, that's all makes sense. Okay, so more people commenting. So Mark, the other Mark, so he's saying, what do you think are the biggest strengths autistic people bring to the workplace? Okay, thanks, Mark. So if you want to answer that now, that's fine, Mark, or you can come back to it later.
Is it? If I come back to it later when we talk.
Perfect. Okay. And I could see there was another one here. Okay, so that's so Jeff's pointing out how the anonymous person could go in and get their picture on. So thank you, Jeff. That's great. So really helpful in the comments.
Cool.
Okay, so we've just talked a bit about what made you move into recruitment. So how did you then decide to kind of set up your own company with its focus on working with neurodivergent professionals, helping them find that right role, the right employer, and also helping the organisations to be neurodivergent friendly?
it's always like one of the favourite questions to answer.
Yes.
It comes really from, I suppose, all of the things I just mentioned when I worked in the recruitment industry outside of neurodiversity. There were so many things that shaped me, I think. And I think, so the main reason that we decided to set up Diversita was my son, Thomas, right? So my son, Thomas, is autistic. He's 16 now. And when we started to look at him getting older, there's obviously some really, really big obstacles to try and navigate, both in further education, but also in employment, right? And if I look at my recruitment career prior to Diversita, which was around 18 years, I've worked with thousands of companies, right? And tens of thousands of candidates. And I reckon I can probably count on one hand the amount of times that we either asked for reasonable adjustments for candidates, or we were asked, right, by organizations who are engaging. So when I first started in recruitment, it was very much based around handshake, referrals, nepotism, all of those type of things. Everyone that worked in, particularly in IT and technology, looked like me, right? So you go into a floor at some of the large financial institutions and all of the developers and technologists, just there's no diversity of any kind. So I think when I looked at that, and then what happened in recruitment, things started to move to what I would consider equality rather than equity, where there was a focus around giving everyone the same opportunity to apply, everyone the same opportunity to have interview questions, etc. But what I started to see, particularly in the last couple of years before I set up Diversita, was there was a lack of equity, there was a lack of additional assistance, there was a lack of additional understanding and adjustments for individuals to try and reach the same level playing field when being in interviews. So that's why. That's I'd say the main reason that we decided to try and move into it, because I wanted to offer something that first of all contributed positively to the neurodiversity community in my son's future. But the most important thing for us, Sarah, was that was practical advice. That was something that I had professionalism in and I could do. It didn't just come from an idealistic phase where where I could just say, I want to just get involved in this and then just make a bit of a mess of it. It was really important to us that we filled in a gap. The final point I'll make on that is when we did research, there are thousands, and when I say thousands, of neurodiversity coaches, neurodiversity workplace assessors, loads of great organizations that work on strategy, but we only found 4 or 5 recruitment focus organizations or recruitment agencies that were actually working with neurodivergent candidates. So for us, it's a no-brainer, absolute no-brainer. And so that's why we set it up. That's to try and help people, help my son's future, but also use our professionalism to make sure we could do that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you've grown to 7 in a year, 7 people in a year.
Yes.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's crazy. I mean, we received some investment recently, which really helped. So we can stop having beans on toast and stuff. So, but it's so enjoyable, right? It really is. And now we've got a team of 7, including Marc Whitmore, who just mentioned, who looks like he's a job coach for us. But we still got 4 members of my family involved. 5 of the 7 people are neurodivergent, which is really important to us to have that empathy with the community. So it's great. I'd love to say it's been terrible and it's been really hard and everything, but it's been so enjoyable. It really has.
That's amazing.
It's really enjoyable. It's so different to what I was doing before. Every day is different. Every day is satisfying, etc. So if ever anyone's got an opportunity to follow a passion in their line of professionalism, oh my word, just do it. Really good.
So you mentioned equality versus equity there. So do you want to just talk briefly about the difference between those 2 words? Because I know that you see them banded around quite a lot, but I think there's probably quite a lot of people that are not really sure on the difference.
Yeah, totally. I suppose the best way to illustrate it would be an example of, say, a recruitment process. So if we have a few challenging conversations with organizations sometimes where they say, well, the interview has to be the same for everyone, otherwise it's unfair. So I'll give you an example. We often ask for reasonable adjustments for dyslexic applicants where they would be given more time during the interview process. So dyslexia is predominantly around information processing, taking in information and digesting it and then giving an answer. Now, we believe that's really important. Now, it doesn't change the outcome. It doesn't change the way you qualify someone, but it helps someone be the best version of themselves during that interview process.
Yes.
So things don't need to be the same for everyone. Everyone needs a different starting point to try and get to the same outcome. So again, with autistic applicants, one of the key requests we get a lot of the time are for interviews to be remote, first of all, or to maybe be in a room with natural light as opposed to fluorescent lighting, etc.
Yeah.
You can't just treat everyone the same and say, well, we interview everyone in this way, etc. So the difference there is really stark, where equality is really important, don't get me wrong. And it was really, really important, particularly with gender, probably about 10 years ago, because people just weren't being treated fairly in interview processes, etc. But it's moved on from that now. So that's probably the best way I can explain.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. Thanks for that. Another comment coming through. So Jeff saying, isn't it wonderful when you find your why in life? Yeah.
It's interesting. So yeah, I work with my investor, and he talks about our why all the time. He really does. Yeah, because he says it's probably the most important part of what we do. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
okay, and that leads very nicely onto my next question, which is about values. So everyone so far has talked about their values in some way when we've had our conversation. So do your personal values have an impact on the type of organisation or role that you will kind of take on or work with?
So this is an interesting question, because I think I'd like to say it does now.
Yeah.
I'm probably guilty of it not being the case in the past.
Yeah.
So without mentioning organizations' names, I think when I left Optimum, the organization I worked for then, it was quite value driven and career driven, quite candid. So I did want to work for someone who I bought into. I did want to try and influence a team and develop careers. I was really, really focused around making sure that I acted ethically with everyone we worked with, including clients, including candidates, etc. Talking honestly, I think the decision I made after that probably wasn't as driven by that. It was probably driven a little bit too financially. So I think, but it is important, obviously, to me now, and incredibly so. And I think if I was going to give any advice to anyone, it's try and look at those values around at the time. And if it's £5,000-10,000 less to go to an organisation that you can really buy into and really have that passion, and then of course make sure you try and really, really consider that. The other thing which I think is really underrated is not just the organisation; it's the individual you're working for. So I've worked for a range of people in the past, and I've worked for some people that were fantastic at their job, but genuinely not good leaders and not nice people, right? So great recruiters and work really well in that sector. I've also worked for some people that are incredibly, incredibly inspiring, but maybe have got a lot of flaws in terms of their professional way they work, etc. That second one every day of the week. That type of individual that you can help, you can buy into, you can almost help them on their journey as well is definitely what. So when I talk about personal values, it's not just about the company, it's also about the individuals that I'd be working for. I think is really important, and with, of course. But I've not always been perfect on that, I'll be honest. As well.
Well, that's good. And Paul's just asking a follow-up question now, saying, interesting that you're driven now more by values. Do you think it's something that comes with age and experience? Yeah,
absolutely. There's I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, am I? But there's I think I got to a point where I was incapable of BS anymore. I really was. There was no doubt. I'd reached a point where I was tired of being in the same type of meetings that meant nothing, tired of towing the line on focuses and agendas that I didn't buy into. And I was tired of the commoditization, really, of the industry I was working in, when in reality, we're there to change people's lives and find them the right career. Now, I run a business, right? And then there's no doubt that we do earn revenue from companies in doing this, but it doesn't mean that it needs to be mutually exclusive away from doing the right thing and trying to make sure that everyone has a great experience. So to answer that question, it probably comes with age, maybe more with experience as well. But also, I think I was just in that place where my son was at a certain age where I thought, I really want to try and make sure that we contribute really positively to his future.
Yeah.
And maybe at the time before that, it was a little bit more about survival and just earning a paycheck to try and obviously get through life, etc. Whereas now maybe we have that little bit more freedom to do this. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think I say that quite often to clients, that I think you get to a certain financial position, don't you, where it's easier to then be really true to your values. I think, when you're kind of young and trying to buy a house, you need a certain amount of income to be able to do that. So it is hard. It's a hard balance.
It is. But I think what's quite encouraging, you see, I've recruited hundreds and hundreds of people over the years. And when I started to, and certainly in the last couple of years before Diversita, more and more people were asking about company values, more asking about diversity policy, asking about what you do in terms of social impact and corporate and social responsibility.
Yeah.
I used to love that question, because it's like, that means that this person's here for more than just that paycheck.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's great that next group that are coming through, I think, are far more focused on those things. Which is
definitely.
Really
definitely. And I don't know if you know about this yet, but LinkedIn are about to roll out something new on the job search. So they've introduced this thing called commitments on a company page, where you can go in and say what you as an organization are committed to. So it might be work-life balance or diversity or whatever it is, but you then have to, as an organization, upload proof basically that you do those things. So you can't just say it, but then on the job search, you're going to be able to go in and search on those commitments. So it is another way of saying values, really, but they're using the word commitment. So you'll be able to go in and search for organizations that are truly showing that they are focused on diversity, work-life balance in a particular area. I think that's such a great idea.
I think it's brilliant, because I think what you'll see then is people that are genuinely entrenched in this. Look, talking really honestly, the recruitment companies I used to work for, we used to get almost like audits come through from our clients, when they'd say, what are you doing about ED&I, or what are you doing about diversity? And you try and navigate it, because the reality was you probably weren't doing a lot. Whereas I get those same audits now, and it's like, this is exactly what we do day in, day out, every part of this as well. So I'll look into that, because that sounds really interesting.
I'll send you some info on it.
Perfect.
Okay, so I can see there's another couple of questions coming through, but they are related to what we're going to ask in a bit. So I'll go on to, so what would you say have been your career highs so far?
Let me try and think. I was really, this is, again, obviously diversity is the biggest one, right? Doing this, doing my own thing. But before that, I think when I was at Optimum, the first recruitment agency I worked for, I built quite a good team and a good spirit of people, and I'm friends with a lot of those people now. And there's, like, for example, a young lad who I had worked for me called Jamie, who, I mean, none of his family worked really. He come with us. He didn't really. He had piercings everywhere. Bless him. Do you know what I mean? Which were before piercings were acceptable, really, as well in the workplace. Great lad. But really, really lost. And he's now a business analyst working for Hayes. And I think about, when I look at that type of individual and those type of influences, they're the things I'm probably proudest of. And I can think of another sort of 15, 20 examples of that, where I think, if I maybe hadn't met that person at that time, maybe their career path could have been differently. And I used that the position of responsibility to try and move them in the right direction. So I think the influence that maybe I've had on some other people's careers is definitely the biggest career high for me. And that's the thing I think about. I think when I'm sometimes sitting there on my own, I don't think about maybe the money I earn or the car I had or anything like that. I do actually genuinely think about those situations. I think in my last job, what I was really proud of is that I think I managed to try and rise above the culture, a culture that I maybe didn't quite buy into. And I managed to create a team that were very, very different to the rest of the organization. And even now I can see the company's benefiting from that, with certain people getting through into leadership positions, more diversity in leadership roles, more diversity in the team in general, different ways of thinking, and also helped a couple of people there get autism diagnosis as well, which again is something I'm really proud of. So I think those type of things where it's people led have always been career highs, rather than I've got this really good promotion, or I've got this or anything like that. They all seem to me to be a byproduct of just doing your job very well. Certainly my experience anyway.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, and what about any career lows? Is there anything you want to talk about in that area?
Yeah, it's difficult because I don't want to go into too many specifics, right, about other companies, but I think I'd certainly reached a point in recruitment in general where I needed to do something different. It was, as I said already, there was certain parts of any sales environment that can be challenging to work in, particularly when it becomes all about sales at any cost. I think the lockdown period was tough, particularly in a sales environment, but more interestingly on how I think my industry maybe sort of maybe behaved in certain instances as well. So I think I was ready to move away from that part of the business, but no, I don't really think there was any massive dips. It wasn't like. I think every time I really felt like I'd finished where I was, I moved on, right? And I'm a big believer in that as well. Going and giving yourself other options, it can really give you clarity in your mind, because sometimes the option where you are is probably the best one. And I had that a few times. So no, I've not had any massive dips, really. I think even like recessions, which I've gone through, and we used to, in Optimum and Hayes, I used to recruit predominantly for financial services. Even those we navigated quite well, I think, based on relationships, etc. So no, I think maybe it's more maybe the couple of years before this in the recruitment industry in general were probably my biggest. So,
okay, brilliant. Right, I can see time is really flying now, so I'm going to quickly
sorry.
go on to the mic. No, it's good. The thing is, this is the thing with these conversations, you could just talk for so long, couldn't you? So general advice, really. So and I know you've got loads of really detailed advice, but any kind of general advice to people who are neurodivergent, who are looking for work, so whether it's their first role or if they're looking to change sector or anything like that.
Again, this is quite a difficult question to answer. It's always so very different for everyone. But I think first and foremost, look at any organization you're looking to apply to. I always say just Google their name and Neurodivergent, right, and see what they're doing first of all, because that's the type of company you want to work for. I think definitely get in contact with either an organization like Diversita or Neuropool or ENA or Source-Abled or any of the organizations that focus specifically around this area, because what they do is they work with companies that are neurodivergent friendly, right, and they can navigate through those areas. But I think in general, it's trying to get some good advice from other people around your CV, get some good advice around the type of work that you're looking to go into and whether that's a good fit for you, etc. To try and get objective opinions really around anything. But look, myself and the team are more than happy to talk to people. I think even if we can't find you a job, we'd like to think you'd walk away with some good advice around and practical advice around, okay, you need to change your CV a little bit. Okay, you'll maybe finish this training course before you start looking for a job, or maybe try to look at these type of jobs, etc. So, it's quite a tough question to answer in
a
short space of time.
And another very tough question, going back to Mark's question now about what do you think are the biggest strengths that autistic people bring to the workplace? Again, I know that's another massive question.
No, it's a great question. And again, it's so specific. It really is. But I think there's no doubt when we look at some of the strengths that the autistic people tend to have, and it's a bit of a generalization, that type of depth of knowledge, inch wide, mile deep skill sets, really analytical minds around looking at things from the bottom upwards can really help organizations, particularly within tech. The most important part, though, is organizations also accommodate those individuals, and they don't just try and take these strengths and try and shoehorn them into a neurotypical environment. They make sure that they can let people work from home. They make sure they do give people adjustments. They do make sure they do give people sensory adjustments as well. So it's a great question, but again, it's very, very specific around every individual.
Okay, great. Now I was going to ask you what's next for you, what's next for Diversita, and Patrick has kind of also asked that. So you've gone from 2 to 7 in the year. Where do you want to be this time next year? So you've got a bit of a coaching conversation going on now, Mark.
Blimey, okay. we made a decision not to stop growth, right? So if there's a consistent demand for what we're doing, and we have a scalable method of working, so I don't know. I'd like to think it'd be at least in double figures, but it's got to be driven by the right type of growth and the right type of offering to our candidates, and our job seekers are absolutely, it's a laser focus from us on them, right? So let's see where we are with that. I think what we've realized quite quickly is there's a lot of companies that would like to work with us, and that's really encouraging. But we've also got to make sure it goes back to the values piece about who we work with and are they the right type of, so etc. What help do I need? Just, do you know what, Patrick's always a great advisor anyway. I think it's do you know what I've really learned is I just crave ideas. I crave advice from people now, and I never used to. I really didn't. I was a little bit too single-minded. Now I have a thirst for it all the time.
Brilliant, thank you. And Paul's just saying, which I totally agree with, don't be sorry, Mark, it's a great conversation and definitely need some follow-up chat. So I think this is becoming a bit of a pattern now. People are like wanting to talk more, and there's so much more to talk about. So anyway, we are pretty much out of time. So just in terms of what's the best way for people to get in touch with you, Mark?
So LinkedIn's great. I'm on LinkedIn a lot. So please connect with me and send me a message. My email address is on my LinkedIn profile. That's really good. We're having a new website built at the moment, which is driving me crackers, to be honest, because it's I'm not great at that type of thing, but that should be done in the next few weeks, and that's going to be really user friendly for job seekers, so you can get in contact with us that way. But have a look at the rest of the team as well. And so we've got 7 people. I think 5 of them on LinkedIn too haven't started yet. So get in contact with any of us, and we'll make sure that we try and get back to you in a timely fashion.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you, Mark, again for joining me today. It has been really interesting. Paul's now saying career stories, a director's cut.
I like that. I like that. The extended edition.
I think so. And I know Paul says quite often that he really enjoys the conversation before and after, and we should be recording that as well. Maybe.
On a holiday, the best ones are the ones that you leave before you start to miss home. The ones, you know what I mean? So that's good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Really good. Okay, so feature shows, I've got people booked up until end of July now. So I've got a mixture of people who are really experienced in their careers, some that have made big career changes. And next week, actually, I've got a double session. So 1 o'clock, I'm here as usual with Sonal Bal. So she is an international career coach, podcaster, and YouTuber. She's had like millions of hits on her YouTube channel. So looking forward to talking to her a bit more. And then at 4 o'clock is Dan Roth. So he is based in San Francisco. So he's a senior DEI program manager. So later for him, because it's crazy early for him, 1 o'clock our time. So I've got a bit of a double next week. So very much looking forward to that. And then Mark is saying, I'm biased, but I really recommend connecting to Mark if you want to learn more about neurodiversity recruitment. So thank you, Mark. That's really kind.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you very much. Thank you to everyone watching. Please do continue to add any comments, and we will go through and answer them later. And thanks again, Mark, and I'll see you all next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers, Sarah. Thanks.